I need help. You know, I can't do this by myself. About 6 months after retire, like needing more help than just chatting to a psychologist, and I got referred to, you know, a mental health sort of counselling clinic. For me, I never thought I would take medication. It took me 30 odd years to be open about my mental health. I really hope I can help others. You know, there's so many people have messaged saying, you know, this has really helped me. In my mind, it's like probably the biggest show of strength that like you're willing to be vulnerable and say, this is how I feel, this is where my head's at.
You know, moving forward in a positive way, you're doing great things and you're using your platform now and using your cooking for therapy.
I distracted myself by setting up a little wholesale bakery in Galway. Something I never thought I'd be doing, you know, and I'm so lucky. And like, it could end tomorrow. Within reason, if you want something and you put your mind to it, you can do it. It's just, are you willing to?
Series 11 of the Dig podcast. I can't believe Series 11. I didn't even know how to press record on that very first episode, but we are back for you, the listener. Real lives, real moments. That's what we need. We need real stories, things that people are going through in everyday life brought straight to you, but with, most importantly, actionable advice. And that's what all our guests are going to bring to you in Series 11. This is real lives and real moments, so we are going to be covering sensitive topics, and I just want to give you a heads up about that. Welcome to the Dig podcast. I have a very exciting guest on the Dig podcast this week, Jonny Murphy. So Jonny is a former professional rugby player, and he played hooker for Ulster, Rotherham Titans and Connacht over the years from 2015. Some of you may know him as the Hungry Hooker on social media, and I'm actually embarrassed to say it, but I don't follow rugby, so I didn't know there was a position called the hooker, and I always wondered, why is he called the Hungry Hooker? And then I googled it, and then my husband was very embarrassed that I didn't know that when I was telling him. But regardless, the Hungry Hooker is how some of you might know him on social media. But he's joining me on the Dig podcast today to talk about his life and about the real moments that have defined him as a person, as well as his career. He's obviously a person and going through all the challenges that we all do, and he's very open about his mental health journey, which is probably the thing that's going to shine through the most here and help a lot of people, which is why we do the Dig podcast. He's right beside me. Thank you for being on the Dig podcast, Jonny.
Appreciate it.
Does anybody else not know why you're called the Hungry Hooker on social media?
I don't know.
Please tell me I'm not the only one.
No, there's quite a few people. I'd say if you're not familiar with rugby, and if you obviously didn't know that I played rugby previously, it can be a bit obscure, and like a lot of people have sort of been like, you know, where I'm from, that might mean something different. Like, you know yourself, like Lady of the Night, or you know, there's other words for it, but that's probably the most PG version. But yeah, it's just a wee play on words.
Yeah, and it really works, and now it makes sense to me as well. But so there is so many different things we can talk about, and your, I suppose your community you've built on social media, and that following, and that your granny and granda, who I thought I just automatically assumed when I see them with you when you walked in today. I was like, where's your granny and granda? But you know, we're going to talk about all that as well. But like I always say, behind people's public profiles and all, there's a life and a journey. And I suppose rugby was on your journey from a very young age. Do you want to take us back, because at school and things, you know, what life was like then, and how you got into rugby, really?
Well, like, it was a family friend, just live up the road. I went to primary school with their son, Jonathan, as well, he's called, at rugby, and family friend Sylvia was like, oh, does Jonny want to come along? And went one week, and then sure the next week I had the boots, the scrum hat, everything bought, and that was me sort of hooked. Like, where obviously when you're younger, if there's, well, I always wanted to be a Formula 1 driver when I was younger, but I didn't realise you had to race go-karts from no size. But it's sort of like, if there was football on TV, you're not going to be a footballer. If there's rugby on, you're rugby. If Wimbledon was on, you want to play tennis. So, but that was the one that sort of stuck, and just stuck the whole way through until I had to recently retire.
Mm-hmm. And what about, like you talked about whenever you were at school, and you know, what you were like as a teenager, because we are going to talk about your mental health journey, but what were you like when you were at school? How were you as a person and growing up? And
probably like, sure, we're all a wee bit awkward when we're younger, and especially when I went to high school, I didn't really have a friend group from my primary school going to that school. And it probably took a little while to fit in and get in. You know, you all say, oh, there's the cool group or whatever. And rugby sort of was like my thing, and that sort of probably got me my friendships, and I think that's the whole way through life because it's such a social sport as well, and it like sort of builds a lot of like good qualities in you. And luckily I had that and made a lot of close friends, and had a great friend group through school, and thereafter I probably owe a lot of it to rugby.
And then you talked about when you were at school, though, finding challenges like with your emotions and with your, finding your way. Like, because there will be like people listening to this podcast of all ages, young people and parents that perhaps have kids at school and high school and stuff. What was going on then, and how did you get any support then at that stage?
Oh well, when initially, like say, like you're touching on like the mental health side of it. When I can just remember when I moved to the house we live in now, like just there was something happening. I think it stems from like a fear of death and what happens after that, like from any help that I've had. And I always struggled with something, didn't know what it was, and just sort of, not for a better word, buried it, but just thought like, this, why have I got this? No one else has it. And that probably went on for about 10 years. And then
Is that like sorry to interrupt, but I'm just trying, was it like worry that you were
well,
worried?
yeah, it was like anxiety of the thought after, and I like basically was OCD, where like I thought I could control outcomes, or if I do this, this will happen, or I'll control it, type of thing. And in my head, and like if you thought on a deeper level, like it didn't make sense, but to me it did. And it got to the point where I didn't want to do with GCSEs point blank. Like had like a meeting with the principal and my head of year and form teacher, and in the end did do it, and probably like I did well. I probably could have done better, but that at that point then got help. Visiting a doctor, essentially counselling, and at that point I thought that was it. Fixed, happy days. That's that behind me. But like slowly learned that it's something I'll have for life, and it's like learning the tools to control it. And I think I know now that big events in life or tough times will flare it up, and like I've had help through since then, when I was like 15, right up until now I'm 33. Like along that journey, I've had bumps in the road and had help, and like probably when I moved to college, I had like suffering with a post-concussive sort of syndrome, and was put on medication and stuff with that as well. It was like mood sort of dependent sort of medication. And then obviously then when I retired as well, I was struggling. And like luckily the rugby players are very good, catering for post-career stuff, and it doesn't matter how prepared you are, it's still difficult. And there was a sports psychologist I worked with, and then thereafter like visiting a doctor and like went on medication as well, like we sort of chatted about before, sort of mentioned it on my page. And it's nothing to be ashamed of, any of it. It's just recognizing and like it's okay. I know it's that cliche saying it's okay not to be okay, but it is true. And there's days I feel shitty. Maybe you wake up and you just don't feel great, but it's just knowing, like if you keep doing the right things, like there is no right thing, but more so like the practices, like looking after yourself, keeping in contact with your friends, your family, those close relationships, and not being afraid to like give someone a call or a friend, or speak to a grandparent or a parent and be like, oh, feel a wee bit, or this is on my mind, like, because it's that thing, like a problem shared is a problem halved. And I think you learn as you go along that it is tough, but you get all the little tools and little, not coping mechanisms, but sort of, trying to think of the right word for it.
Well, it's kind of like a toolbox for when things go wrong. I'm going to talk about the specific things that you do to help, but I keep thinking back to that 15, 16-year-old person that might be listening now, or their parents, and you said you got the help and but how do people at that age, or is there things that you could have done differently? But what would you say to young people who are listening that are finding it hard to maybe tell their parents or tell their friends or admit it? How did you actually get that help?
I think it probably, for me, it just came to a head. Like I didn't know what was going on, or didn't know how to cope with it. I think it eventually became evident that there was something going on, or I had these little, rituals or quirks, or like that was probably the easiest way to say it, to show it, or my mood and stuff. And like it is hard because like obviously there's a lot more awareness around it now, but like my mum didn't know what was going on. And like like luckily she hasn't had that many issues with that type of stuff, or has maybe never had it, and couldn't understand. So it did take me to go elsewhere, because like not everyone knows how to fix things, or like you need to see someone that actually has knowledge on it and the tools to like sort of pass on to you to cope with it. And luckily for me, like it just like it was 10 years until I got help or whatever, which I hope isn't the case for others. And like luckily, like I've got this platform, like unintentionally, like I really hope I can help others. There's so many people have messaged saying, this has really helped me. My son's opened up or is getting help, or I just, when it's out there, like for one, there shouldn't be a stigma around it. If you were diabetic, you take insulin, or you break your leg, you go to the hospital, you get a cast or surgery. That all,
Those physical conditions,
Yeah.
it seems acceptable that
Yeah.
you would like go and get treatment.
exactly, and like it shouldn't be any different, because your mental health's just as important as your physical. And like if it's that sort of thing, if you're worrying, or you can nearly trick yourself into being sick, or like you're thinking of like, oh, there's something up on me, and like it just spirals into something else. And I think the mental side is nearly more important than the physical, because it does like filter down, like anything from the top down, and
And then whenever you went on to university, so obviously you got things a little under control at that age, and then you went to university, and isn't that right? Did you go to England? Did you go to England?
no. So I studied at Jordanstown,
Jordanstown.
whilst I was in Ulster Rugby Academy.
Oh yes.
And I had a pretty bad injury then, when I was out for like a year. And even like coming back from that, like that was sort of a life moment that sort of like completely threw me off. And then same with like relationships as well, ending or stuff like that. There's just a whole lot went on, and eventually got back from it. But like it held me back so much, my ankle, even though like it was physically fine, like mentally I wasn't over it. And there's so much going on, and like luckily we actually had a day where psychologists came in and had like a whole workshop with us, and like afterwards it sort of really settled me, and I stayed after and had a chat with them. And then thereafter, like
Was
you
it
know,
part of the rugby training?
this
that
was just like
psychologist
we
came in?
had like a psychologist talking like performance based stuff and just a lot of things, and even that was brought up, and I was like, Jesus, it feels like this is really hitting home, if you know what I mean. So I spoke to him after, and luckily, and thereafter that, there got help again, and like put me in a better place. I was good for ages, and then I moved to England with rugby for a year, and that was tough. First time, like obviously I lived away from home, but like different country, and that was hard, and it sort of threw me. And I had a bad concussion there, and that's sort of where the post-concussive syndrome sort of stemmed from. And then when I moved to Galway, I was still struggling, and luckily there was a psychologist in the team, for all the squad members, and got to work with him. And it's just sort of I probably let it go too far rather than like nipping it in the bud. Where now I'm a lot better, and I know I can see myself like slipping into things, and even like silly little things. Like, not that I'm the worst flyer, but if I have say I had a flight to get this evening, I know for a fact there'd be little things that I would be, and I'm like, all right, you know what you're at here, catch yourself on, this isn't going to change things, just relax.
Thank you so much again for listening to the Dig podcast. And don't forget, if you like listening each week, if you love our guests, please hit that follow button if you're listening on Apple or Spotify. If you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe. And that means even more people can find out about the Dig podcast, and we can keep reaching out to the guests each week and bringing you some inspirational stories with actionable advice. Now we're going straight back to our amazing guest. So that's like that toolkit we talked about nearly.
Yeah.
Like you're pulling on those things to help you.
You get the sort of, you're more aware of it, and sometimes it's hard to know what's going on, because like then whenever I had to retire, that was sort of like bang, that was it, in one phone call. Obviously I had a few issues and I saw a specialist, but like I had basically a contract in France to go to, and that was like on a Monday, and then on the Tuesday I got the call from the specialist, and he was like, I'm advising you to stop playing. And I was just like, from south of France to do more rugby, and it just all happened at once. And I distracted myself by setting up a little wholesale bakery in Galway, and just probably training too much, and obsessing over other things, and not like, okay, this has happened. It's okay to wallow and, you know, feel sorry for yourself for a while, because it is sort of like a part of like recovery or grieving for anything. If it's, you know, a career ending, or if it's a death in a family or whatever, like you shouldn't feel bad for feeling bad. You know, it's okay. Like they're all feelings, and I've learned that where like if I do feel something now, there's a reason I'm feeling like that. You know, don't try and like, okay, I don't like that, push it away. Like, let's get rid of it. Just, okay, that's how I feel. Let's sit in it, let it happen. Might be for half an hour, might be for an hour, but you know, that's it, done. And like one of the guys I worked with, he always said about like pushing your feelings down is a bit like a beach ball. Like the further you push them down and push them down and down, eventually they have to come up, and the further you've done that, the higher the ball goes up, and that's like the bigger the, I don't know, release of all those emotions. And it can just be it can be a whole lot worse if you just, okay, address it in the moment. You know, it might take a week or two, but it's better to do that than, you know, sort of run away from it.
And that's good advice as well for anybody listening, because sometimes we do try to suppress, and as you said, and the after effect can be huge if it goes.
Yeah,
We go
like,
too
well,
far.
no one likes feeling crap, you know, like it's just, but
What is, just to jump in, right? Like I've been through loads of things in my life too, and I've been able to get out of them in my own ways. But for people, what is feeling like crap? Like what are, I suppose I'm trying to think of somebody that's listening and they're wondering, are these feelings normal, or should I go get help? How do you know when?
that's the thing. There's a lot of things that, I don't know, like it's in rugby terms, like, you know, you might have a bit of a niggle, but you get on with it. You know, there is some things that like, yeah, okay, I don't know, say I was bowling, my mum took my phone off me for a day, like that's, oh, this is horrific, this is, you know, I'm not enjoying that. But then at the same time, there's other things that, you know, are a whole lot worse that you do need to address. It's hard to distinguish, because like in a way, the worst thing that's ever happened to you is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. Like it's all relative
Yes.
in a way, but it's, you know,
When do
like
you know when you need
to
the
help.
real? Yeah. When
I
did
think
young people or anyone
it's
know?
when, I think a good way of looking at it is like, we all have things that we enjoy and want to do, but like when you get to the point where like you you don't, nothing excites you, nothing makes you happy, you know, you're not in, like, say you enjoyed, I don't know,
Cooking.
cooking,
Yeah.
and you're like, I really don't, the last thing you want to do, or like I love cooking, baking, just, you know, all that type of stuff. But like when the things that you enjoy, you don't enjoy them anymore and you don't want to do them, I think that's a really good sign that there's something else going on, because like that's your outlet, that's your sort of like off switch. Where if that's something you're not, you know, fulfilling, or you don't get that fulfillment of joy at anything, I think that's a very good way to know that there's something, you know, deeper down or underlying that needs addressed.
And that's good for anybody listening. If they're feeling like that, or they're not getting that enjoyment from things they love, then maybe it's time to reach out.
Yeah.
And we're going to link in the show notes some outside agencies of support. Perhaps has there been any? I know that the sporting world has given you a lot of support. Is there any other outside agencies that we could direct people to?
When I was younger, it literally was go to the doctor, and I got referred to, you know, a mental health sort of counselling clinic just outside Portadown. And then later on again, that when it was just after my injury, and the psychologists come in, you know, they sort of worked with me slightly, and then it was same again. It was, you know, it was the, what would you call it, the NHS essentially. So I have been very lucky that way, but I do know it's a lot harder to get that help. Like, I know my dad won't mind me talking about it. Like he never suffered with that stuff, and then he had an accident in work and was sort of mistreated and stuff, and like later down the line worked out that he has PTSD, and like he's still struggling with that. And you know, I think that generation as well was like for maybe 6 years or more, 7 years, until he, you know, realized there was something going on, just pushed it aside, took it out in different, like would have been taking it out on, you know, not us in a way, but like angry, frustrated, stuff like that, wasn't himself. And I think, especially in any household, a parent has such a, like, not control, but like their mood influences the whole household as well. And, you know, it was hard for everyone, but like I tried to talk to him and sympathize, you know, not sympathize, but like I've been in that position, and I know it's a different, you know, illness, so to speak, or like condition. But like I was trying to help, but like it probably, another thing is no parent wants be told what to do from their children either. You know, it's probably like, oh, what do you know? Not in a bad way, but he's got help now and he knows that he needs to work on things. So it's a hard one. Like, it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can paint anyone with the same brush in
No.
any sort of like walk of life. But it's just, if it's even just chatting to someone, if it's a friend, family member, like that can start something. And like that's something like with Rugby Players Ireland, there is those supports. And like, unfortunately, about, I'd say it was 6 months ago, a guy we actually all played with in college, like took his own life. And like he was always happy. He was quiet at times, when you got to know him, he's such a lovely lad, always full of joy, cracking away, smiling. And even like my friend Paddy was chatting to him a couple of weeks before it, about a week before, they had written on one of the posts I'd done, and like, we're back and forth, like, oh, if you're, as like, anytime you're up, this next week, let me know, we'll get a pint. He's like, see him down in Cork. And then obviously then the next week you hear that, and like we sort of, I've been chatting with the guys in Rugby Players Ireland to like, we've had a few little coffee mornings and stuff, but to set something up, if it's once a month, or even if it takes me to make treats to like try and get lads out and catch up, and like you might not even say anything, but like you might chat and someone might, would you grab a coffee with me next week? I just want to chat about a few things. And I think it's funny with sports people, well, for rugby anyway, like we've always said that like you feel guilty in a way for feeling how you feel, because you're so privileged to play professional sport at various and varying levels. But like it's like anything, it is relatable, because like you can have a career in something for 15 years, put so much effort into it, and then you can get sacked the next day. And it's sort of the same sort of thing, like you throw so much effort into something for so long, and it's your identity, and then overnight it's like gone. And
that's when you got that phone call to say then, like, he was advising you not to play anymore, and essentially that was you sacked, but you weren't going to play anymore.
It's one of those things, sometimes it's nearly better. It's like ripping a band-aid off, where say you have an injury that you're trying to get back from for 18 months, you can sort of not see the writing on the wall. You're like, look, this isn't looking good. But then that's also draining in a different way. So there is like different, I wouldn't say pros and cons, but there's different varying ways that it does affect you. And, it's just surround yourself in like, not a community, but just like-minded people that sort of, are on the same page. And like, I think definitely from home here, we're so bad at like, bigging each other up, and you're always like, and I'm so bad at taking a compliment, or like anyone say, oh, that was great, or like, you're doing really well, like, oh, thanks, or like even accepting the gift. I'm like, oh, there's no need for that. Instead of like, that's one thing I envy of like in America. Americans are so over the top, and like it does, you just cringe a wee bit. But like, fair play to them, like to big each other up, and like, you're going to rule the world, you're going to do this. We're like, I'd say if we could even just meet in the middle,
Yeah.
it would be amazing. But like, I think that's something we should definitely big each other up and like follow each other along, because we're, no one wants to see anyone do bad, and we're all on the same page and same boat. We just need to pull each other along.
Yeah. And you do that, because I know that you then started to cook and make treats for the rugby players, and you would all get together, and you're only after saying there now as well that, even like coming together once a month perhaps in the future or whatever. But cooking then became like an outlet for you, didn't it?
Yeah.
For all of this, like, big things you're going through.
Unintentionally, because I always brought stuff into the lads and tough training days for the coffee room, and they always said after, you should give it a go. Did that in Galway, and when I was doing it in Galway, it was probably a little bit different, because I was on my own in a room by myself, and it was a job. Whereas now it's a lot more therapeutic, and before that it was therapeutic, but then like anything, rugby was my outlet, then it became a job. Baking and cooking was my outlet, then it sort of became a job. But now it's different, because I'm so lucky to be doing, like, especially with my granny and granda, like making videos, and it's creating memories as well. Like even outside that, like we're so bad as a family taking photos. We're like, I have so many videos now, and like just little, like I even like now I'd watch some of them, like that's actually gold. And like seeing my granda, like my nanny, like just the stuff to come out with, like it's priceless. And the thing is, I miss 90% of it, because I only video when I'm cooking or baking. where like if you're a fly on the wall, like you could have I don't know,
A sitcom.
a 10-part series of like just rubbish, like not rubbish, but like just the amount of stuff you could
Your
use.
granny and granda are good, wholesome, salt of the earth, down to earth people that
Yeah.
I think people love to watch as well, and to see the relationship with you. You can see how you have that strong family network as well that have helped you.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And I think that's the thing. Like most people in the country, that's what they grew up with, and they can relate to it. And like so many people have messaged us, it reminds me so much of my granny and granda. Unfortunately, they're not here. You know, like there's such core memories, and like even the food as well. Like you know yourself, like potato bread, soda bread, like even like biting into that, it's like oh, it would transport you back. Or there's little things like you know, like sort of like if you smell cut grass, it like transports you back to something. Where like food's just the exact same, and you know that it was sort of therapy in a way. Like and like I know my nanny won't mind me talking about it. That when I had to retire, unfortunately, my uncle passed away, which is her son, and obviously that was very tough. And my nanny would have always made stuff and breads through the week, treats at the weekend, and then obviously it's a massive life event, and like that she stopped doing that because she just didn't enjoy life, and like it was very hard. And then it would have been around November time of that year. My nanny and granda came to Galway to see me for a few days, and like I could sort of see like a bit of a change, if you know what I mean. Like because she felt guilty of living, like not enjoying life, but you know her son passed away. She should be locked away, mourning non-stop, which you do. You know, have those feelings, get them out, but like you shouldn't feel bad for living your life and you know carrying on because that's the way that life goes on. And like I'm sure my uncle would be looking down and be like, I want you to be happy and stuff. And it would have been when they were down then I said, oh, would you show me your sort of fire recipe when I'm up home next weekend? It's like, oh yeah. So came home, did that, and then it just turned into, obviously I was after, I'm home this weekend, we'll make this. Yeah. And then it was her being like, oh, you're home this weekend, what am I making? And it started sort of flipping where she was getting back into it. And like a lot of people would say like it's given them like a fresh, you know, lease of life. And like it's amazing. Like if it's helping my grandparents, you know, that's a win in itself. You know, and I think it helped all of us, you know, deep down, like not even realizing. But you know, we're just together, and like every morning I get up and go for a walk with my granda. I like sometimes mine say 10 words because he's in a funny mood or we're both tired, but like, you know, I'll always go on that walk because like in like down the line in 10 years I might be able to do that, and I'll always be like, fuck, I wish I had went for that walk, because my nanny would be like, oh, you've been real busy, or you were here and you weren't home to whatever time, you know, take a lie in the morning. We're like, well, no, because down the line I'd be like, I wish I had to go for a walk right now if I could.
Just taking a short break, guys, from our guest. We're going to be back really soon, but I want to let you know about our fabulous partner that we're partnering with for 10 full weeks, MCG Property Group. Your home should reflect you. Every detail designed with your lifestyle in mind. Whether it's a stunning new kitchen, a luxurious bathroom, custom built wardrobes, or a full interior transformation, MCG Property Group brings your vision to life with bespoke craftsmanship. Their team works closely with you to create bespoke interiors that are both stylish and functional. Clever storage, elegant finishes, seamless layouts, every element is crafted with precision. From concept to completion, MCG manages the entire process, ensuring a stress-free experience and impeccable results. So if you're ready to elevate your home, MCG Property Group is the team to trust. Check out all the details on their website. The link is in our show notes. Thank you for listening, guys. Now we're going straight back to our amazing guest.
You know,
That's
it's just
good. I said there's a lot of people love to go for a walk with your granda, the insights that they would give. Is there much editing has to be done when he's talking, or is he pretty much straight to the point and what he says is...
always straight. He'd be straight to it. Like he's not afraid to tell you how it is.
Yeah.
Which probably
Good
a
man.
generation. Like,
Yeah.
you know, there's no badness in it either.
No.
But no, I'd that's the thing. I only catch the snippets whenever it's recording.
Yeah.
Or if I'm getting his. He's sort of like when I was younger, I would have, well, I said the self-proclaimed taste tester of Manali stuff. where now he's sort of just taking that role where he's just sitting there like royalty, just sitting waiting on something
be
to
fed.
rise. Or like when I was away with the book shoots and stuff, I remember coming home, I was like, well, did you miss me? And he's like, oh, you know, it was all right, survived. And then he's like, but you know what? I haven't had a bun or a treat in a week. This isn't on. Like, you know, he's only winding you up. Like,
He's great character. You know, I would laugh my head out, and then I've started showing him to my mummy and dad. I'm like, oh, this man here reminds me of you, Dad. And then Daddy was watching him too. But we're going to talk about, you mentioned there the book is big news coming, and we're going to talk about that now in a minute. But I had all my notes prepared, and we'd done our call, and I knew what way we were going to talk and what we were going to talk about. And then I saw a video that you put up on Friday or Saturday on social media, so this is Monday now. And it was talking around the topic of taking medication for any kind of, or well, in your situation, for the difficulties that you were having with your mental health. And that's not a topic probably that you've ever talked about before on social in relation to medication.
No.
Talk to us about why you felt that was important, and what is the message there, Jonny, for that?
I'd thought about doing something like that for a while. Like initially, like I hadn't really shared much of my personal life. It was just like recipes or like the little business when I was in Galway. And then it would have been not Christmas past, the Christmas before when I started moving home. One of my best mates, his cousin's husband was there, and he stopped me. He's like, oh, the hungry hooker. And I was like, oh, this is weird. I'm being recognised. And then we're just chatting away, and he had asked a couple of questions, and I explained. He's like, that's so interesting. You know, you should put that up. And I was like, who wants to know about this stuff? Like, it's just my silly wee life. And then a couple of weeks later, I was like, you know what, I'll throw it up here and whatever. And everyone loved it, and they were like real supportive and like interested in the whole story. And then like, I can't even remember why, like I just like touched on, you know, like retiring and like the struggles and the mental health side of it. And people like really opened up, and like people really benefited from it. And then there I was like, you know what, like if one person benefits, you know, it's worth me being vulnerable. Because like, I don't care if Davey down the road, whatever he thinks of me or whatever he says, like when Annie would joke and be like, take that hat off, you know, you should be building a good image, or like, you know, why have you got that basketball top on you? Like, I was like, Nanny, I don't care what goes on or what people say, like as long as I'm happy and my morals are right and my family, you know, I'm not doing anything that they wouldn't do, you know. It's water off a duck's back. And like I sort of thought to myself, well, if all these people are benefiting from it, I don't mind being vulnerable if it helps others. And essentially then I thought about doing that video, and it was actually quite, I have no issue talking about it, but whenever I just set the camera up and sat down, we're coming to you, and I was like, flip, this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Like I'd said to my mate John, I was like, I felt like I was in school again in assembly in front of everyone, you know, and you're like, I don't, like, it's your worst nightmare is getting up in assembly and talking in front of everyone. And that's literally how it felt. And it was just one of those things, like, I don't think it's anything you should be ashamed of. If, like I said earlier, if you're diabetic, you take insulin. Like,
So for people who haven't seen that video, what was the mess, or what were you talking about?
I just chatting about like how, well, I take sertraline, which is essentially an antidepressant, and within 6 months after retire, like needed more help than just chatting to a psychologist, and spoke with my doctor, and he recommended that I go on that there, and was on it maybe just over 2 years now. And I've spoke to my doctor about trying to, like, you know, wean off it. I know you can't go cold turkey because it just frazzles you, so just have a plan in place to like slowly come off that and see how I am. And I know it's there, like it, you know, if I needed to gain it. I've spoken with people that have been on it for years and years, and like, what's the issue? If it helps you, it's, you know, it's there to be, it's like, it doesn't fix everything. It sort of like gives you a little kickstart, is the way I describe it for me anyway, when I was like struggling and, you know, a sort of tough spot. It sort of gave me that little extra push to get going. And like, it's like anything, it's the little 1%ers, you know, and doing the things that you know in time will help. You know, you mightn't want to go see your mates and go for a coffee or do this, or like, for an example, for me, like New Year's, maybe like a year and a bit ago, like my mate Michael invited everyone around, and I was sort of in a pretty bad place, like with retirement, and I just started moving home into my family home, and like whatever, you know, 31, you know, just like a long-term relationship that ended. Everything was just like, oh, all over the place. But I knew going there, you know, not, I mightn't have felt good then, but down the line, I had to do those things to get back to a good place. And it's sort of like you go to the gym once, you're not going to see any difference, you know, 3 times a week, nothing. But in 5, 6 months' time, if you keep doing that consistently, you're a completely different person. And it's just sort of that delayed gratification and knowing that, like, if you do the right things and the right practices in time, things will, you know, get better and improve. So it's just sort of tricking your mind into, oh, no, this is the right thing. And you know it's the right thing, but this, like, we all want instant gratification and instant, you know, results, but it just takes time.
And work.
Yeah.
Hard work too to push yourself, doesn't it?
Exactly. And that's another thing. Like, I always thought when I was younger, I was like, oh, I wish I didn't have these problems or these struggles. But, like, I'm thankful in a way, because, like, it's taught me so much, and, like, I've built so much more resilience and compassion and empathy and, you know, patience, and it's made me a better person. You know, life might have been easier, but, like, would I be where I am now? And I wouldn't be the same person. So it's, in a weird way, I'm thankful for it. It's just realizing that every situation there is a highlight, or it's just approaching it in the right fashion, you know, obviously.
And you, I suppose that topic around, you know, going to your doctor saying, is medication right for you, is it not, and having you talked there about a plan as well for, you know, that it doesn't have to be forever and all, like, those are all important things that people need to discuss, because there can be that kind of thoughts around, you know, going on medication, or, you know, but you need education about it, and what it means, and that you doing that video maybe will highlight that to people too. Perhaps it's a conversation at least, and maybe it's not right for you, but we need to talk about these things.
Yeah, but, like, for me, I never thought I would take medication, like, for that. And even from a young age, it was offered to me. I was like, no, I don't want to, because in my head, what took me so long to get help, I was like, I want to be a rugby player when I'm older. If it's on my record that I'm struggling with this, or I take medication, like, not that that's an issue at all, but, you know, you just
build these things up in your
you
head.
just make these things up in your head, like. And then for so long, until, like, that, when I moved to Galway, that was the first time I ever had medication, and, like, it really helped. And, like, I wasn't on it for as long, but it sort of, like, was a reset, because it's basically said you have a chemical imbalance at the moment with the post-concussive stuff in your mood and things. So they took the advice, and it really helped. And I knew, you know, I did everything I could prior to just going on it. It wasn't like, you know, oh, I'm just going to go on this, it's going to fix it. Like, I'd exhausted every other route, and I was like, okay, I need this help, and did it. And, you know, and then it just takes time. And, like, someone messaged saying that, like, they haven't, you know, they avoided it, and they did the counselling, the therapy, and it's helped. You know, they're still working back towards, like, their baseline. But, like, the therapy and stuff's probably harder, and the counselling, because they know what they're looking for. They know how to prod you, and not prod you, but, like, pick you and put, like, they know how to get it out of you.
Yes.
And it is tough, and it's emotional, and things, like, where, you know, this, it's sort of like, it's like a bit like a can of easy start for, like, a tractor or something, you know. It just gives you that little bit extra just to get going and putting you in the right direction. That's how for me anyway, personally, you know. And I know it might be different for everyone else out there. So it's just, you said, have those conversations with the right people. And,
Yeah,
you know,
and it's not, for, as you say, it's not always the same journey for every person, but being aware of all the different paths is important, because you can feel like the doors are closed when they might not be. And just to hear you speaking like that, I hadn't heard anyone talk like that on social media. I was wondering why you did that. I know there's always a purpose behind your videos, so that's definitely and I'm sure you'll get lots of messages after this going out as well from people.
Yeah, it's like, it just didn't happen overnight, I would think. Like anything, like, you don't wake up one morning and you're a lawyer or a doctor. There's lots of work goes into it. And, you know, it took me 30 odd years to be open about my mental health. Like, I never thought I'd want to speak about it. And, like, the first, like, obviously close family members knew, like, only till recently my belly didn't know. You know, she just didn't know. And, like, I was like, yeah, it's like, I didn't know that. Why didn't you tell me? I was like, oh, I thought you knew. Where, like, she didn't. And, like, probably just my mum and dad and my sister probably knew, and, like, my like close friends, and, you know, like, literally a handful of people. And then we had a coaching colleague, Andy Friend, like, great man, and, like, he basically paired us all off, say, paired me and you off, and it was called Heroes, Hardships and Highlights. And I would tell you mine, and you'd tell me yours, and we'd present in front of the team. And I was paired off with a guy, Paul Boyle, and I knew what my hardship was. soon as we had the, in the meeting, the team meeting, and he said about this, but I was like, oh, I don't know, like, am I just going to spin some rubbish here about something else that my hardship is or whatever? But I was like, I know what it is. I was like, and then the fact that we were the first up, I was like, look, I'm just going to bite the bullet and do it. Like,
What did you say?
I told him, Boiler, I was like, this is my hardship. I haven't told anyone bar my family and probably my best friend Clark. That's like, and explained to him, like, he stood up. I stood up and spoke for him about his, and then he stood up and spoke for me about mine. And then after, a lot of people came up to me, and then after that, like, they also like seeked help, and through the club got help, and like they're like, thanks for that. That's something that I struggle with. So like, it was,
Harder for men, isn't it? Do you
yeah.
think
But I think that's
it's a bigger thing, like that conversation around men being able to talk about this?
that shouldn't be a fraud. Like, I think society's better now with it, but you yourself like, oh, quit being a crybaby or tighten up or whatever. And there is sometimes like that does mold you as well, and like gives you a lot of resilience. Like, I wouldn't have played rugby at the level I did if I didn't,
Toughen up and harden
toughen
up.
up. And there is a lot to be said for it. If you, like, we had an S&C coach, and love him, Drakey, but the hell he put us through in training, like physically, and like it strengthens you mentally. If you can't, like, I think, well, me and my mate Kyle and Kerry would have always said, if you can't deal with what he's putting you through, you're not going to be good enough, or you're not going to be able to put up with the stuff on like a senior rugby pitch or a professional rugby pitch. So it is like, there's probably a limit on it, There's probably, what's that, the catastrophe theory, like there's only so much you can take and then the whole thing falls apart. So it is, finding that fine balance.
Because there is that thing, men are taught to be tough and strong and big, and don't pretend you're sad or weak or scared.
But there's even more strength in being open about your emotions and talking about it. Like, I know some people might think reaching out for help or talking about it is a show of like weakness, but like, in my mind, it's like probably the biggest show of strength, that like you're willing to be vulnerable and say, this is how I feel, this is where my head's at, I need help. I can't do this by myself. Even though you've done so much to that point, but like, it's just, being comfortable in that. It's just one of those, I don't know, probably there's so many pros and cons for each side of the sexes, and like, females are so good at talking about things and letting it out, and having those moments of vulnerability and crying, and where guys, like, even though you want to, like, I've sat in the car with my best mate Clark and trying to get words, like, I really want to talk. I could be thinking about it for half an hour trying to get it out, and I can't. It's just hard to express that. And I know for a fact, if he turned around and said to me, it wouldn't be a problem. It's just, I don't know, I think it's just the way we're wired.
I know, but it is changing, like you said, but it's still hard. I know. I've got 5 brothers and a husband and all, and I can see that whole, men are, it would be very hard to open up for them, but this type of conversation is so important, Jonny. What you're doing now is brilliant. Like,
thank you.
Great work. And hopefully it reaches even more people on here. But you are, moving forward in a positive way. You're doing great things, and you're using your platform now and using your cooking for therapy, and with that's opened up a whole new world that I'm sure you never thought you would ever see.
No, it's funny. Like, I'm one of the, spoke about him a few times now. Kerry, he would be like, "Oh, you're an influencer now." And I'm like,
how do you feel about that? You are.
I know. When you think of it on like the descriptive level, yeah, okay. If you influence someone to make something or bake something, yeah, you're an influencer. But like, I'm the furthest thing from it. Like, we joked about it at his house, like when we were younger. After training, we would have went to his house around the corner, and we're sort of talking to his mum and dad, like, who's the last person you thought would be doing something like this? And it was me. Like I was the quiet boy from the country, and like they would always joke like, "Oh, we open your eyes and broaden your horizons, bring you up into Belfast, into the big smoke." And it's something I never thought I'd be doing, and I'm so lucky. And like, it could end tomorrow, but like, I've been so lucky and grateful for like even just the memories and the time I've had with my grandparents and family, and being able to take my grand to the rugby even, or like, being able to create a book of all of our like family recipes, and those ones that like we all love but people are starting to forget about, and it's funny, like, whenever I had the offer to do it. And
So tell people that are listening, so you're about to release, it might be released at the time of this podcast. We'll be linking it in the show notes, a new book, right? First book.
oh yeah, well, who knows? Hopefully it goes well, and there might be more.
And what do you call it? What's the name?
Becks and Wee Treats. So
You just hear your granny saying that, a treat. And so that's like all the family recipes and things that you and your granny and have made together.
Are just family recipes and ones that she's gathered over the years. You yourself, all family and friends, to share this, or like, oh, I've made this, try this, and little snippets from, we went through all her stuff, and there's even recipes handwritten from her mum, things like that, and family, friends, just all those ones that we love, and then a few that I've picked up along the way as well, like, and they're all just in that one place, and each one's got a little story as well, which I really wanted to add into it. And the team of Penguin were like thrilled with that, because like there's a little bit of a backstory to each recipe. There's a reason why it's there, if you know what I mean. It's not that, oh yeah, people like that, we're going to put that recipe in. It's like there's a reason why that recipe's actually in the book.
On a story.
Yeah.
Which is what people connect with, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
What your granny and grand is good at doing, and you telling a story around food. I can't wait to get it, and it's coming out hopefully this week. We're going to time the podcast to go out at the same time as your book, and everyone is going to be able to get it. We'll link it in the show notes. But it's deadly to watch, because I know that obviously this wasn't always your work, and now it is, and you've created this whole new career and community out of it, and positive as well. And we talk about the word influencer, and you're right, if you influence anyone in any particular way, you are an influencer, and you are a positive one that men and families and people can look up to now, and I think it's class and deadly, and
appreciate that.
I swear to God, but it is, because men need those role models, especially like you said here in this country. It's hard for men to open up, and even to see someone like you cooking in the kitchen and spend time with their grandparents and all that is positive role models we need, and I think it's brilliant.
It's probably the polar opposite of what people might think a rugby player is like.
Yes, but you're a person.
Yeah, that's the thing, and that's one thing that like the rugby players are, I always say, is like more than a player, and I think that is something like we identify as rugby players for so long. That's probably why it is tough when you finish, like, but at the first and foremost, I'm Jonny Murphy and I play rugby, instead of you're Jonny Murphy, the rugby player. It's there's a lot more to life after rugby and whatever your profession is, and at the end of the day, you're your own person first. What you do is what you do, but we all have our own personalities and loves, so I think that's probably something that should be highlighted more.
Yeah, because sporting is such a big thing in our own communities, in different ways, and you're not always going to be able to compete at that level, so you have to prepare yourself for what life looks like.
I know. And like, you can be as prepared as you can, and it's still hard. Like, and I know for a fact, if I didn't have to stop with injury, I would have played till the wheels fell off. And like, I would love to play the season with my home, like my mates from home at Banbridge, but like, it didn't happen. And in a way, like, I have so much respect for people that work 9 to 5, train Tuesday, Thursday, play Saturday, like they're broken until next Tuesday's training session. Like, I don't know how to do it, and that's just for the love of the game. Like, I think that's more impressive than doing it for a living. Yes, there's different ends of the spectrum, but like, doing that there is like, I feel more impressive than doing it at the highest level, because it takes a lot of commitment, and just you have to put up with a whole lot.
You have to have the passion, right, or else you're never gonna be able to sustain it. I said to you on the call that I was asking everybody in this series, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? Can you remember what you said to me on the call? Or even
No, I have two.
Yeah.
I have been thinking of it. So two of them, well, there's two that are quite similar. Be everything happens for a reason, or like, what isn't for you won't pass you, because that's the same thing. Like that, I've lived my life like that now, because when I was younger, I didn't get into the high school I wanted to go to, and our family friend Sylvia was like, everything happens for a reason. Didn't, in my head, I was like, this is rubbish, what's she on about? But then, never would have met my friend group, my best friend Clark, had all the experiences I had, then went to do my A-levels in Banbridge Academy, and they said they would release me to play for my club, and 3 days later, they wouldn't release me from a club, and left, and there was uproar in the family. Oh, your A-levels, what are you going to do? went to Newry Tech, did a sports science course, went to uni. And if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have got into like Ulster under 20s, Ulster Rugby Academy, wouldn't be doing that. You know, left Ulster, would never have got to Galway and had an amazing 6 years there. If I didn't have to retire, I wouldn't have done the Beacon in Galway. If I didn't move home, I wouldn't have be doing what I'm doing now. So it has all led to something.
Yeah.
And then the other one is something my dad said. It's like, there's no such word as can't, because if you can't, you won't, and if you won't, you don't want to. And I think you can take that with a pinch of salt, because I think within reason, if you want something and you put your mind to it, you can do it. It's just, are you willing to, you know, put the work in? So that would probably be the two.
Two clinkers to end the podcast with. Unreal. And
Thank you.
normally they're passed down through family. It's interesting. Your daddy, we always say, oh, my daddy's there, my granddad's there, or whatever. And that's where we get all our life experiences from too, I suppose. But good luck with everything. Your book, we're going to link in the podcast show notes so people can get. We're going to tag your social handles for, I'm sure everybody's following you already, but if you aren't, you're going to love following Jonny and his family. Don't forget about us now when you hit the big time, and you know, you're flying all over the world, cooking. No, but seriously, like, the world's your oyster now. Like, all these great things are coming, and rightly so. You deserve it, all the success.
Thank you very much.
We're very grateful to have you as our guest, and we know this is going to open up a great conversation now about mental health, especially for men. It's very much needed. But thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you for having me and being a part of that, because it is something very important.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.